We've gotten a lot of comments about outboards being trash, they're junk, they're crap, they got all these problems, all the different models, this, that, and the other. It seems that we've forgotten that outboards are just a bunch of dissimilar metals assembled together with electricity flowing through them, spinning at 5,000 to 6,000 rotations per minute, and then submerged in a highly conducive and sometimes a salinity-rich water, pushing a massively heavy object through that water, and then most owners are going to put off maintenance for as many years as possible, and then leave the boat either in the water or out in the weather, in the wind, in the sun, in the rain, in the snow, in the ice, and whatever else the weather's going to bring for that year. And then when they break, we're surprised. I guess when you look at it like that, yeah, all outboards are trash. They're just going to fall apart in a few years. But if you look at the ones that have been maintained, they last for decades. Out of the top 4 major brands being Honda, Suzuki, Mercury, Yamaha, none of them are putting out a trashy, unreliable product. Yeah, they've all had their models that seem to be more problematic than others, but I guess if you were one of the owners of one of those problematic engines during one of those eras, then you've probably got a bitter taste in your mouth from that brand. And there is some of the brands that didn't really take care of their clients or the owners of those engines as good as they should have. So I guess there is that issue. But brand perception has just been shaped over the years. And I don't think that any of the manufacturers are, like I said, putting out a trashy, unreliable product. Yeah, they all kind of have their own thing. Like if you say Yamaha, most people think of reliable. If you think of Suzuki, most people are going to say cheap because they've been coming out with just a cheaper engine for so long that that's just how people see them. Even though Suzuki, as an underrated company, is just as reliable as Yamaha, in my opinion, in my experience. And then if you say Mercury, most people are going to think cool and fast because they've always got the newest stuff, the coolest stuff, the most innovation. They're coming out with a 600 V12, a V10. They got the best joystick stuff, their Skyhook stuff. They've got, you know, the fully autonomous boat. Just everything that they do is just totally innovative and new and futuristic, and that's what they push to be. They say, you know, bold, Mercury, be bold. So, I mean, I think that in the Honda, I don't know if there's really a word for Honda. They used to be heavier, but they were just not really in the outboard game as hard as everybody else was over the past few years. So I don't know if they really have a public perception outside of the actual brand being Honda as reliable, because Honda, name one product that Honda makes that's unreliable. Not their weed whackers, not their generators, not their cars, not their anything that they make. You know, I mean, anything of their lawn equipment, their tractors, none of that stuff. Honda doesn't really make a bad product that anybody's like, oh no, don't buy that. That's not going to be reliable. So I don't know if they really have a word, just because they've been more focused on other stuff, not really outboards, over the last few years. I don't think that any one of them is any trashier or less reliable than another one. I think that the perception comes from the different eras where they had certain models that had certain problems, and that they had these specific issues with like flagship products, which you're going to have no matter what it is, whether it be a car, a truck, anything, any engine related product, like all of the Teslas, any homes, any product that's brand new is going to have problems. And so whenever you have different models that have specific issues, then the people that purchase those engines and that stuff during those eras with all the problems, those are the ones that are going to be stuck on this brand is either junk or trash. I've never had a worse experience than with this engine and this brand and this thing. So over time, I think the idea has been cemented into people's minds based on a specific experience that they've had with one engine or one model or something like that. Because the vast majority of everybody else is going to be using a different product and have a completely different experience. That's why everybody hated on Evinrude for so long, because it was such a 50-50 brand where there's so many people that had such a great experience with the Ocean Runners, with the Ocean Pros. There were a couple fixes out there that actually ran really good. But then the other half of them were just horrible experiences. People lost their shirt. They spent thousands of dollars and just washed it down the drain because of the problems that were with those specific engines. That kind of carries on with somebody. And it's also kind of interesting because of different people's different experiences based on where they're at. So the education of someone or the experience that they have working on this type of boat in this certain area in this type of water. I guess you could say that they become accustomed to different problems and different things to have to deal with, and they never see another side of something where someone that works on a different body of water with a different type of boat with a different type of engine will not even think of the different problems that you could see between, or not have the experience of like, we make this type of boat for this reason, and then this person over here is gonna be like, well, that boat's junk, I would never use that, I don't like the look of it, I don't like this, I don't like that, all because of their experience being over here and not over here in this region. I think it's like that with the brand perception as well, and why people think that this brand is junk or this brand is trash because of their experience. But again, I want to put it back onto those with the different maintenance that they do. The way we treat an engine and a boat is just crazy. People take such good care of their car, and they run the car every day. They take care of it. They keep it in a garage, and the thing lasts for years and years and years. Meanwhile, their boat, they use it 10 times a year. It sits on the side of the house in the sun, uncovered with rain and wind and debris and all kinds of stuff, just bashing it. And the fuel gets stuck in there. They never use it. And then whenever the thing breaks and they got all these problems, then all of it's like, oh man, this brand, this boat, this thing is just junk. Even though it's the lack of care and the lack of maintenance and the lack of use that turned it into that, because it is, again, a dissimilar metal. We have run electricity through it, put it in water, and run it at very high RPM, and it's just abused, just like batteries and other stuff in it. I mean, you think about a boat when it goes through the water, it's going over chop, it's just constantly slamming against the water, and you've got all of these components that are taking that abuse. So things are going to break, and that's just what it's going to be. It's not like a car running on the road, which doesn't get to see the same amount of abuse. So in order to say that they're all junk and they're all trash, and to see all the comments of all the different people, I think it's all comes down to experience, because I'll use Evinrude as the scapegoat. There was a lot of people that had really good experiences with that engine. Granted, once Evinrude sold and BRP bought them, whole different story, different models. The reliability on some of them was very questionable. And then this last stitch effort with the Ghost model, I mean, that is a whole nother thing that is almost like a comedy sketch if you look at it and read the things that look at the product. I mean, it's an outboard that's under the water. You can't back in a slip because you're afraid of getting water in it. They come with a bilge pump on it. And it's just, the whole thing is a problem just waiting to happen. The G2, the company went bankrupt, so put them out of business. There's a whole discussion over there on that stuff. But I think for the whole topic of something being trashy, it really comes down to how it's taken care of. And, is it one of the problematic engines? It's just kind of what it comes down to. Railroad Fishing Adventures. My Yamaha F-150 horsepower is a 2014. It had 1,700 hours when I bought it nearly 3 years ago. It's now at 4,600 hours. And compared to the rest of the hundreds around model here, all have about 6,000 to 10,000 hours with a different with a few different models over 15,000 hours. With only minor problems here in Rarotonga, Cook Islands. We can all sell our fish as no commercial boats. So most boats do 50 to 100 hours a week, but mainly all trolling speeds, or some guys catch fly fish at night, but that is a lot of speeding and slowing down to catch the flying fish with nets. 90% of our engines are Yamaha with the odd Honda and Suzuki, but we don't sell our engines. We use them till they die. See, there you go. I mean, you're talking about engines that have 15,000 hours on them, and they're using them every single day, putting 50 to 100 hours on in a week. So it goes back to the care. If you take care of it and you run it all the time, it's going to last a long, long time. And it's surprising that there's no Mercuries out there, but that is way over in the, I think somewhere around the Philippine Islands, somewhere in there, not sure exactly where the Cook Islands are. And why they call them the Cook Islands, I don't know either, because Rarotonga is like the main island when I looked at it on a map, and there was like 3 other islands on the side of it, but they were like really, really small islands. So you would think they would just have their separate names and everybody would just call it Rarotonga, but I don't know. You can let us know. Broad Bill Hunter. I had a pair of Yamaha F-150s 2006 that ran great for me for about 2,000 hours before they both basically had power head leaks, and I didn't want to deal with fixing the seals. Somebody did and still runs them. I repowered during 2022 and paid about 40 grand for a pair of brand new fly-by-wire 200 Suzukis, and it was a total game changer all around. So there you go. The F-150s, I'm surprised that you were only able to get 2,000 hours out of them, because solid engines. Balancers probably kind of coming into question there in the 2006 era, but nonetheless, F-150, in my opinion, is probably one of the most reliable engines that Yamaha's ever made. So the 200 Suzuki, though, I do think that is also an underrated engine. Super reliable. It's got power. The fly-by-wire, everybody loves the digital controls. So 100% game changer as far as the functionality and the user experience when you go to fly-by-wire, and you added 100 horsepower to the back of your boat. So I bet it just changed the performance all around, and I bet you love the boat now. Philip Christensen, great content. How about a video on what tools should be carried on a boat while on the water? I run a Hughes 18, so weight is important, but so is getting back to the hill. I don't have to carry as much as some because I'm generally not more than a few miles from some form of safety, so my box isn't going to be as loaded as someone running 50 miles who can also handle more weight. So basic tools for common issues, and what are some good combo or multi-purpose tools that can accomplish multiple tasks. We all know everything is a hammer, so I can do with that. I'm going to say that you want to have a simple socket set, usually like I would say a metric set over a standard set, because metric's going to fit a lot more stuff on the boat. I'm going to say a Leatherman Super Tool 300. That thing does so much. You're going to want to have some zip ties. I would also say some sort of like a wire brush so you can clean stuff. Like if you got a bad electrical connection or something like that, you can kind of clean it off and put it back together, tighten it down. That's actually probably going to cover most of what you need. Honestly, I don't think having a Leatherman, having a wire brush, having a simple socket set that's got metric, and then probably maybe a set of vice grips to clamp something down. Honestly, I think that for those tools there, because you're going to have some of your other stuff on there. You're going to have some fishing line on the boat. Most people keep some lead weight on the boat. You got dock lines on the boat, keeping some fenders on the boat, and then your safety equipment. Honestly, I think that's going to be all that you're going to need to carry for the most common issues. Obviously, we can get way more in depth and go, trying to cover anything that could possibly happen while on the boat. But with those simple tools like a Leatherman and a wire brush and stuff like that, you can pretty much kind of diagnose everything. Vice grips, you can clamp something together if it breaks. Zip ties, you can hook stuff up. I'm going to go with that being the best basic set, so that way you won't need a bunch of other stuff. Like if you're going way offshore and you're going on multiple, different distances, maybe even having like a jump pack on the boat, some sort of an extra power source. But that's going to be probably what I'm going to say is the best thing, outside of like first aid stuff, being stuff to make, a lighter, some matches, something to make, stuff like that for whatever reason, other things that you can need. Spray Pave, great clip, but doesn't explain why my Honda 90 won't always engage in reverse. Sometimes it does engage, other times it grinds and won't engage. Clutch dog is in good condition with no rounded edges. There could be multiple different things. This is probably on the video where we were doing the lower unit, completely disassembled it, kind of show you what the gears look like, what the clutch dog looks like, all the different things, the bearings. Now, as far as an engine going into reverse and not going, most likely it is a problem that's not with the gear case. Usually you're going to find, we've talked about this on quite a few episodes, that either the control cable, the shift mechanism, the shift shaft, something else is affecting it where you think you're putting it into reverse, but from the time that you put the handle in reverse, the control cable, the shift mechanism, the shift crank, and then down to the shift shaft, something in there is not good. You know, you'll put the handle all the way in reverse, but the shift shaft on the lower unit is not turning all the way into reverse gear. That's usually what it is. Usually not the lower unit that has a problem, because the lower unit is completely mechanical. So unless you have a mechanical failure being rounded off clutch dog teeth or something like that, or a broken piece like a spring or something that's not moving the shift dog into place fully. But there's only a couple components. You got the shift shaft, and you got whatever the shift mechanism that attaches to the clutch dog, and it goes back and forth. Like, that's it. There's not a whole lot to it that can be the problem when you're talking about not engaging all the way in gear. My guess is you've got something engine, boat side, outside of the lower unit that is your problem here. So I guess what we'll have to do is just make a video on how outboard shift and kind of go through some of that kind of stuff. Mr. Water for Fun, great video. Thank you. I have a 2005 Suzuki 250 with a leak around the prop shaft even after replacing the seals. There is a visible bearing carrier crack near the seal. To remove the carrier on a Suzuki, is it pretty much the same process as this video? No special removal tools? Thanks. Mr. Water for Fun, I'm not 100% on a 2005 Suzuki 250. Most Suzukis do have the bearing carrier where there's just a couple bolts to hold it on, and it just pulls out the same way. But then a lot of everything else uses a spanner nut or a gland nut to hold the carrier into place. I want to say on that 250 Suzuki, though, that it is just a couple bolts. You pull the bolts out and you can pull the carrier out, because you're going to have to replace that carrier. If the carrier is cracked, then that's going to be your leak 100%. And yeah, to remove it, I want to say it's just 2 bolts, not 100%. What I would do is go to partsview.com or boats.net, and I would pull up a 2006 Suzuki 250, and then I would go to the gear case and I would see what that carrier looks like, and it'll show you, whether there's a spanner nut or there's 2 bolts that hold it on, and that'll kind of give you an idea, because all you got to do is then just take it out based on that. Brent Spalding, what size PVC pipe diameter did you use to install back on? Talking about putting a prop shaft seal back into a lower unit. Usually most of them are going to be 1.25 inches for the PVC pipe. And then if you've got like a V8 350 Yamaha, it's a bigger one. That one, you just get a 1.25 inches PVC pipe that's got the flanged edge, and you just use the flanged edge to push that prop shaft seal back down into the carrier. Super simple. And if it doesn't happen to fit for what you've got going on, depending on the different lower unit that you got, just get a different piece of PVC. You can get PVC for a couple bucks, so not a big deal. T-Butch 130, does Boss still make that 840 Marine silicone you used? I can't find it anywhere, just the 801 Pool and Spa. I'm not really sure 100% on that. So what we used in that, talking about how to lay silicone, how to make it look clean, and how to clean it off and apply it to make it look like it's factory. That Boss that we had is actually going to be, that was a color matched sealant. We actually got that sealant from Scout, and Scout orders that directly from the factory. They have it color matched to be, the specific cream color that they wanted on that boat specifically. It is, we got it from them. So I don't know whether or not, you can buy it from Boss or where else to get that stuff. That's where I got it from. We got it from the factory, and I'm assuming that they still make it because, they're supplying major brands with color match specific silicone. So my guess is that they do still make it, but where to get it, not 100% sure. Maybe call the boat manufacturer as far as, being able to get it from somewhere like that. Like I said, we got it from Scout and it was color matched. So that's how we got it. Eric Davey, I would actually like for a boat that needs a new outboard and negotiate accordingly. The engine is the heart of the boat. A new engine will make the boat feel brand new and you'll have years of enjoyment. Buying a 10 to 15-year-old boat with the original engine, even if it has low hours, is going to stress you out. You're probably going to end up repowering anyway, except now you've paid too much for the boat because it had a quote-unquote good engine. I'm with you 100%, Eric. That is like a great technique to be looking at as far as a boat. Buying something that's like 10, 15 years old and then repowering it with a brand new engine, I mean, yeah, it changes the boat phenomenally. I think that it might be a little bit different from people that are, say, up in the north areas where they don't get to use their boat like we do down here in Florida. Down here in Florida, a 10 to 15-year-old boat is going to have a lot of hours on it. Whereas a boat that comes from, New York or these places that only have like a 3-4 month boating season, 10 to 15 years, they might only have a few hundred hours on their boat. But the abuse that boat took is going to be way different than the abuse that the boat took down here. So that might be something to think about. I'm with you 100% that is a huge negotiating tactic to get something that's 10, 15 years old, because the boat should be in really, really good shape. But like he said, a 15-year-old engine, for a lot of people, it is going to still stress you out because depending on what you use the boat for, you're going, way offshore, or you're, using it where it's a life and death situation. You need to have a good, reliable engine to go in certain areas on the water because you need to get back. So I'm with you 100%. I love the idea of getting something discounted because it's got, a bad engine or whatever, and then doing the repower because it's going to be and feel like a brand new boat because you got a whole new power package on the boat. So I'm with you, Eric. Rich Figlia. Ralph Evinrude passed in 1986. After that, it just started slowly going down. Also, you can't talk about Bombardier that owns it now. They bought the name. They are not Evinrude. You can't even call these engines Evinrudes. So yeah, they bought the brand after 86. They totally did. It was a total different change. I think once you get past the Ocean Pro and the Ocean Runner, yeah, I've always been a 50-50 on Evinrude. I've always tried to give them the benefit of the doubt, even through the fix, even through the E-Techs, even through the G2s. I can't go to the Ghost, though. The Rotax, I could never support that because that is just insane to me to take an outboard and stick it down in the water. And then, no, you don't do that. It's just a bad idea. So that's the only thing that I never have ever been like positive about. But every other one, the G2s, I know people that have had G2s and have had great experiences with them. Same thing with E-Techs, same thing with Fix. We've got someone that commented a few weeks ago about having twin Fix, and they did all the work. They did all this change to it, and they maintained them, and they run great. So I'm with you, but I also still try and give people the benefit of the doubt. Martin Rodriguez. I've got a 1978 23-foot center console Mako that I saved from my brother. Long story short, he bought it a few years ago and ripped it all apart saying he was going to fix it up. Problem, he don't know what he's doing, aka the boat murderer. So I plan on getting to work on it this winter/spring and will video and capture before and after processes. P.S. This boat's a tank. Hope to show you guys my progress soon and love your channels, bro. Thank you, Martin. That's awesome. I wish you the best of luck on the Mako. Huge Mako fan, especially those 78, 80s, 90s to 23. The thing is a tank in the water. It's phenomenal. The ones that I've had, 250 and a 300 on them, yeah, they'll cruise in the 30s. You'll get into the 40s top speed. They maneuver they're great. They just grip the water, so they're really fun ride, and they're dry. A lot of other boats that, in that area, especially when you get into the 23 stuff like that, a lot of other boats are wet. You get offshore, you get in a 2-3 foot chop, and all of a sudden everybody in the boat is soaking wet. I've never liked that about a lot of boats, and I don't talk about a lot of brands because they have that issue. Those Makos, you didn't have that issue. They 2 to 3 foot chop, they'll take it, you stay dry. I'm a big fan of that boat. Toucan Man, the first Mercury 4-strokes were Merkahas, half Yamaha. What a mess. Parts, forget it, forgot it. We had to toss it and repair after thousands spent trying to fixing it. What a lemon. There's a lot to unpack right there. So yeah, you got the Merkahas or the Yamamerks, whatever you want to call them. Yamaha people call them Yamamerks. Mercury people call them Merkahas. Basically, it was a 3.3 Yamaha and packaged as a Mercury. So interesting thing about some of the other ones, I don't think that the 3.3 Yamamerks, Merkahas were that big of a problem. I think that the 3.3 Yamaha was a really good engine and the platform was good. Now, the carbureted 4-strokes, not the biggest fan. Those were the ones that gave most people the most problems. One particular problem is that the way the TPSs worked, they were reversed. So the way it read the voltages, they put it in a couple adapters in there to reverse voltages from the way the computer read the TPS. So there was that kind of an issue, but by and large, the 3.3, whether Yamamerk or Merkaha, I didn't think they were that bad. I didn't think they were lemon. I didn't think that the 3.3 Yamaha was that bad of an engine. You know, the 225, yeah, old, heavy, slow, all that stuff. Unreliable? I don't think so. Even though they did have the 2 years with the exhaust shaft, you know, the exhaust housing rotting out, they were still a good engine and reliable. I mean, still thousands of people out there running that engine today. So I'm not going to call it a lemon. I think it's still a good engine. But I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for this week. We thank you all for the comments. If you want us to talk about something, drop it below. Email us, askbab@boardingandboating.com. Check out our boaters program at boardingandboating.com. You can check out our live streams that we do weekly if you become a channel member for the main channel or join the program. So everything looks great. We hope to see you next week.